I'd like to introduce another local activist. Can I call up Neelam, please?
To highlight the horrors unfolding in Gaza. Week after week, we come together with our banners and flags, not just to demand an end to the genocide and this country's complicity, but also to remind each other and everyone we encounter, whether it's on the street or social media, of the harsh reality of what is happening. We can no longer rely on institutions like the BBC I'm going to speak about one of the main institutions, the BBC. So how did all this start? In November 2023, BBC senior management joined a staff meeting to discuss the coverage of Gaza. Deborah Turnus, the CEO of the network, set the tone when she said, "We've all got to remember that this all started on 7th October. It was after this that employees pushed back and accused the BBC of ignoring the historical context of the occupation and the suffering it has caused in Gaza. 100 employees signed a letter condemning them for biased reporting. For a lot of these employees, this was the last resort, because management had completely ignored their previous engagement. They said the BBC is failing its own commitment to impartiality, and that by failing to challenge Israeli claims, they were dehumanizing Palestinians. In December 23, the BBC buried a report by Amnesty International accusing Israel of genocide. Instead, they published a pro-Israeli stand which rejected the claim. 13 current and former BBC staff members said the editor Rafi Berg, who is the online editor for the Middle East, has links to Mossad. He ensured that all coverage slanted favorably towards Israel. One former journalist wrote that Berg's entire job is to water down everything that is too critical of Israel. Junior staff were reprimanded for postings on social media anything that was pro-Palestine. But Berg publicly celebrated the launch of his book, Red Sea Spies, on Israel's Mossad, and an Israeli embassy spokesman even attended the event. In his book, Rafi lionizes Mossad, who he calls the world's greatest intelligence service. On more than one occasion, he has posted on social media that he had seen his book on Netanyahu's bookshelf and bragged about his links to a former Mossad commander. This clearly shows his influence and shaping of the BBC coverage of Gaza. Even the language that they use in their headline shows their bias. When our Hind Rajab was brutally murdered, an article on the BBC stated, "Hind Rajab found dead in Gaza." The end of the article stated that Israel had previously accused Hamas of using ambulances to transport its weapons and fighters. This was to somehow justify an attack on ambulances, and blatantly apparent how they are using humanizing terms such as mother and father for Israelis and use it far less to describe Palestinians. And terms such as massacre and slaughter are almost only ever applied to the resistance. Many staff members have left the BBC over these editorial decisions because they believe that we deserve journalism that confronts the hard truths rather than one that spreads narratives favouring one side over the other. The BBC has an ethical responsibility to cover the whole context of the Israeli occupation. When they fail to do that, it pushes the cycle of misunderstanding and ignorance that has dangerous consequences for the people of Gaza. Journalists and media outlets have the power to shape public perception, and that power comes with the responsibility to provide an honest portrayal of what is happening. Journalism should serve as a platform for truth and empathy rather than a tool for propaganda. When the media neglects to cover the full story, they become complicit in the erasure of Palestinian history and identity. This isn't just about reporting. It's about human lives, it's about dignity, and it's about justice. In a world where information holds power, we have to demand better from our media. We deserve fair, comprehensive, and unbiased reporting. The media will not speak the truth. We must speak and share it ourselves. We have to call out institutions like the BBC and boycott them. If you pay for a TV license, cancel it. All it takes is one phone call. Do not pay for them to oppress Palestinians. Follow our journalists on the ground, share their posts, share their stories. Every media outlet is censoring them. Never before have we had access to actually see the truth with our own eyes. Don't look away. We are capable of being the loudest voice in the room when we all stand together. Every time the media lies, a neighborhood in Gaza dies. Every time the media lies, a neighborhood in Gaza dies. Every time the media lies, a neighborhood in Gaza dies. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Thank you.